What is the Flask request object and how does it work? Imagine you're sending a letter to a friend and want to include all the details about what you want to say. In web development, when a user visits a website, their browser sends a request to the server, kind of like mailing a letter. The Flask request object is what holds all that information about the letter. It is a special object in Flask, a Python web framework, that contains everything about an incoming HTTP request from a client, like a web browser, to your Flask application. Every time someone visits your website or submits a form, Flask automatically creates this request object. It acts as a container for data such as the request method, headers, URL parameters, from data, cookies, and uploaded files. You don't need to create it yourself. Flask does that for you. To access this data, you just import the request object from Flask using from Flask import request. Inside your root functions, which are the functions that handle specific web addresses, you can use the request object to get information sent by the user. For example, if a user clicks a link or enters a URL, the request method will be get. If they submit a form, it might be post. You can check this with request method. If the user added some query parameters to the URL, like search is equal to Python, you can access those with request args. When a form is submitted, the data they entered is stored in request form. Cookies stored in the browser are available through request cookies. If the user uploads a file, you can access it via request files. The request object also contains the headers sent by the browser, which can include information like the browser type or accepted languages through request headers. Flask manages this request object using something called a request context. This means the data is only available during the time Flask is handling that specific request. It keeps each request separate, so data from one user doesn't mix with another. This setup makes it easier to build web applications that handle multiple users at the same time without confusion. In practical terms, the request object is essential for interacting with users. When someone fills out a form, you use request form to get their input. When they visit a URL with parameters, you read those with request args. If they upload a file, you access it through request files. This makes your application dynamic and responsive to user actions. To sum up, the Flask request object is a key part of how Flask handles communication between your web application and the user's browser. It gathers all the information sent by the client in a clear, organized way. By using it, you can read user inputs, understand what the user wants, and respond accordingly. This is what makes building interactive and data-driven web applications possible with Flask.